Hi, I'm Steve Reben, and every day when I come to work, I get to see this sign. I've been looking at that sign for 40 years now, and what I want to do today is let you know about Call Before You Dig, where we've been for the past 40 years, and where we hope to go in the next 40. Going back to 1978, the Call Before You Dig group was even then lobbying for strong legislation to include everyone in the Call Before You Dig process. And they did that successfully. And back in 1978, this was a big thing. We were among the first states to have comprehensive membership from every owner and operator of underground facilities. But more than their participation, we also mandated in the state law that every excavator, be they a contractor or a homeowner, had to notify Call Before You Dig before they began their work.
If in 1985 there was an event that really changed the template, if you will, the River Restaurant incident. Accounts say that there were crews working on sewer lines on Main Street in Derby, hit a gas line, didn't realize it seeped into the sewer, and bad things happened very quickly at about 10 minutes to 4 that Friday afternoon. 6 people were killed. There was probably another 10 or so that were injured. And it being a small community, my wife actually came from Derby, and it really affected a lot of people's lives.
We also worked with that legislation, revising rules that PURA used to enforce the details of the law. And I believe that the knowledge that we provided legislators and the higher levels of the utility were critical in getting effective rules in place to protect public safety.
When we first started this system back in '78, we were answering the telephones, holding the receiver in one hand, and scribbling down information on a ticket and take it to a map book where we physically plotted the dig site. We had to go to another resource to find out what utilities were actually located there, and then find some way to communicate this information with the utilities. Most of the times we just picked up the phone and read this information to somebody who hand recorded it at the other end of the line. The really sophisticated utilities were able to receive this data by a private line teletype network.
The most significant impact or change that we made as a board was the movement into a GIS mapping environment. And that obviously enabled all of the technology that is now available that the current board and vendor are utilizing.
Being able to go from calling a ticket in and having to be on the phone all the time with people marking out saying, but where are you working? And now I can just draw a little box and write in the comments, hey, if you need any help, this is who you can call. It's definitely made not only my job a lot easier, but everybody out in the field's job immensely easier.
The acquisition of the One Call Center operations by Pelican Corp, that led us into, it enabled us, gave us an opportunity to look at things with a different perspective, blend some of our best practices with some of the things that Pelican was able to bring to the table.
The talents, the resources that they brought to the table, I'm still in awe of. The goals that we've achieved with the number of electronic submissions for tickets are in a percentage range that we didn't even dream of when we first got into it.
I think the fact that we are taking the direction of staying up to date with how fast technology is moving forward and being able to do a website like this and make it so people can navigate it between homeowners and contractors, as well as the guys that are marking out, has been a huge asset to not only Call Before You Dig, but to everybody in the state.
Call Before You Dig being 40 years old, back when they started, very innovative in bringing one call service to Connecticut. We appreciate that history, and the history that Aspen One Call was involved with CBYD right at the start, and more recently with the acquisition of Aspen One Call. Pelican Corp have had 5 years with CBYD. We see them as being great partners of ours, involved heavily with the regulator. They're highly regulated this state, and look forward to building new opportunities with Call Before You Dig.
The first proclamation was in 1989, and the idea of the proclamation is the governor of the state of Connecticut signs the proclamation stating April is Call Before You Dig month, and we follow the CGA's guidelines now, but Connecticut was actually in the forefront of that. They did it long before the CGA was promoting it.
I think the most important thing was the commitment of Call Before You Dig to the continuing education. Because as we all know, the world keeps spinning and it changes every day, changes in technology, changes in rules, changes in every way we respond to the call. So the education commitment has to be one of the top priorities.
We started focusing on smaller groups, and people like Terry Sylvester and Anthony have helped us develop the program of Train the Trainer, where we have smaller groups. We bring in people that are safety officials in the company, or a manager, and the idea is that we make sure that they're fluent in all the Call Before You Dig rules and regulations, and they can come back to their companies and train their people. So it's much more effective training. So we'll train 25 people that can go back and train 50 people. One of the things we've been able to do over the years on the board is we've been able to utilize some PHMSA grants to extend and come up with new creative advertising and marketing. So that allows us to get creative. One of the areas that I really enjoy advertising at is the Stafford Motor Speedway. It's people that are in the construction industry, either driving the race car or sponsoring the race car or in the grandstands watching the racing. So we've been able to work with Stafford Motor Speedway and develop a lot of new initiatives to promote 811. We came up with something called the 811 Points Challenge. Every race, depending on their finish, they'll accumulate points, and then come the middle of August, we award the top 5 drivers with $811 to commemorate the 811 day. When it came time to develop a new TV commercial, I had the idea that we use a child actor to get people's attention rather than just have a technical TV commercial.
Taking advantage of the new e-ticket system at CBYD.com.
Now you can do everything online. Very cool for us construction guys.
The Call Before You Dig board realized early on that in order to be really successful, they wanted to have input from all the stakeholders. And that's why today, even on this board, we've got not just utility owners and operators, but we've got representatives from the state regulatory authority, we've got insurance company representatives, representatives from contractor associations, and public safety officials, because they all had to have a part in this Call Before You Dig safety network that we were creating.
It's an expectation. As a board member, you will be part of one of our committees, and over time, we've changed the composition or the number of committees. And so now we have the finance, we have the damage prevention and education, and then we do have our operations committee. But it's really being adaptable to be able to address the needs that we have in our membership, and working together. There's no idle seats.
The board's a fantastic team of people that are representing the industry, the utilities, the municipalities inside Connecticut, and we continue to have a successful relationship and want to continue to have a successful relationship with the Board of Connecticut.
Personally, I take great pride in the fact that we as a board work together to get the word out, and we strive to reach out to all aspects, all persons involved with excavating. And I believe by the personal commitment of the board members, we were successful as a team, because it is personal.
I can call Anthony up, I can call Steve up. The ladies downstairs, if I do have to ever use the actual phone to call in a ticket, they're still just as wonderful as they were before this new system got put into place. Everybody has each other's backs, which is nice, especially because we all come from different aspects of the fields in this industry specifically.
We can't go without mentioning too the people who work down in the trenches, as it were. We've got a terrific staff of operators who handle the calls that come in, not just taking locate requests, but offering help desk advice as well to anybody who needs assistance with our web entries and so on. So it goes up from there through our management staff. Everyone really pulls their weight and has as their goal damage prevention. It's been that way during the past 40 years, and I'm sure it's going to continue on into the future.
I look back at the last 40 years and I think they were terrific, but looking forward to the next 40 years, I think we can even do better. I think we can continue our legacy as a fantastic one-call center here in Connecticut, and the way we manage things, the way we operate things. And I think that the next generation, because obviously I won't be here in 40 years, continues this, and they carry on this legacy that Call Before You Dig has had in Connecticut.
What I'm excited about going forward for the next 40 years of Call Before You Dig is utilizing the technology and the resources available to evolve our message to continue to keep it fresh and reach our target audience.
One of the things the board has done periodically is I'll say a long-range strategic plans. And so whether we're required to or not, we've adopted that as a best practice. If you don't have a plan, you're not going to get there in the future. And part of that is to see what is changing and what is the latest technology. And just because it's new doesn't mean it's the best thing in the world, but again, what have we done? How can we improve the service to the customers? Will propel us to the future, and we just can't rest on our laurels, but we need to grow for the future and attract some new talent.
Going into the future, I see our role evolving to be far more comprehensive in nature. I mean, we're doing things now not just with the education and the promotion of the safety program, but we're getting into things like permitting and into things like corridor coordination between utilities. These are things that certainly weren't considered when we first started back in 1978, but they're certainly services that are needed these days to help impact and even increase the communication that we've been able to create during the past 40 years.
I think it's very important to us to maintain our role as a best practice operations center here in Connecticut. I would say it's important and that we show through statistics or metrics that we are continuously improving. And I think that's something very important. It's something we need to maintain and keep a strong focus on.
What we've been doing these past 40 years, and we'll continue doing into the future, is pretty much the same thing. Making sure that we provide that accurate information exchange between excavators and utilities. We've gone from using the teletype system and the private line network to using the internet and having online accessibility for just about any activity you want to use Call Before You Dig for. From locate requests to looking up history, renewing tickets, any number of services that are now online and able to be accessed, which means it's easier and more efficient for our users, and we like to think also more effective for providing safety for the greater Connecticut community.
As a team, because it is personal.